You're listening to Kelly and Steve, and this is Coupled with Chaos.
90 Day Fiancé Happily Ever After, Season 8, Episode 21, Tell All Part 2. Wow. This is fun, right?
It is fun.
I get it, right? It's a crappy season.
Yeah.
But a brilliant move on the house thing.
Yes.
Because this is what we want.
Right.
I want something different. I'm tired of the same old thing.
It's unmoderated in the house setting. And I think that's what you want. You want people openly being who they really are.
It would be like the scenes with inside of the studio, for me, are like commercials. Like, all right, let's get through this choreographed question and answer thing. And let's get straight to the meat because I want to see them interact. Because you really get to see how they are as people.
Right.
We did know is that I loved Ashley's description of Angela as Angela had a moment, is what she said. Because Ashley is pure entertainment, right? I think she says the things that nobody else will say, and her reactions are genuine.
Yeah, she's more brazen with her opinions.
We would call that, in my world, we call that direct. She's a lot more direct with what she has to say. And even when Angela was up on the steps with Michael, Ashley wasn't in that group. That was Liz and Thais and Jasmine.
People following and listening.
Yeah, playing. I don't know what they were doing. They were kind of playing.
Eavesdropping, whatever.
Yeah. Like you need to eavesdrop on Angela?
Yeah, her screaming.
Yeah. How about for us, we start with at least the positive and good of this episode, which is Kobe.
Yes. That was so nice.
Did you cry?
Yes.
Okay.
He's such a good person. He really is. She really struck it rich in terms of finding a person of character, a good, legitimate partner.
We all go through phases in our life where maybe we aren't the best person, or we do some oddball things. And so he was in China being an underwear model, probably, and forgive my frankness, but banging anything that moved, right?
Yeah.
So this is who he was in this period.
Footloose and fancy free as a young person away from home.
And she's out and
doing the same.
Yes, I mean she wasn't being an underwear model. I think she was being a teacher, is what she was being there.
Yeah, but she was out having one night stands.
She was doing that. So, I mean, there's that. And so she gets pregnant and happens to probably strike the lottery.
Yes.
When it comes to this. Kobe's a good person.
Yes.
I think no matter what, is it that simple that you're good or bad?
I'll just say I think that if they ever divorced or had a split or separation of any kind, like a divide issue, it wouldn't shock me if her dad was on his side.
Wow. Like Gino's cousin.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because she can be very entitled and unreasonable. And disrespectful even.
Well, he says this.
But Kobe at all times is thoughtful, respectful, and appreciative. And I think that he's like the son they never had.
You think this is how he's viewed by David?
Yes.
Interesting. I could probably see that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're a big fan of hearing about him putting it to their daughter.
No.
But they're probably not surprised by her.
No.
So there's that, I guess.
I think they also feel that she is very lucky. That with the behavior she was engaged in at the time, that this is who she got tied to forever.
Right.
by getting knocked up by this guy instead of somebody else.
And not like and I don't know why I think about it, but I'm just thinking like a dude like remember like Jonathan from North Carolina?
Yeah.
Like him. He's just kind of, douchey.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know that he would or wouldn't do the right thing, but something about him is, he's got other people's underwear on his couch.
Yeah.
And it's this kind of thing.
Right.
He just strikes me as, and I'm sure there are worse than him, right? But it just came to me like this is just who he is.
Yeah, right.
And she could have gotten hooked up with somebody like that.
Right.
But she finds somebody of
character.
Deep down inside, a good person.
Yes.
And
a good father. And a good partner.
Mm-hmm. And really respectful and appreciative of her parents.
Yes.
And this isn't something you see in this age group frequently.
No.
And maybe it's, are we being discriminatory of this age group of Americans?
No. I mean, it is what it is. I think everybody knows it.
But he wasn't subject to that.
He also was not American.
Right. I think we'll get into that a little later in Patrick.
Yeah.
I think Patrick said something really bad.
He really did.
So the two things, we have this heartwarming thing. And for me, as painful as the Kobe and Emily stuff was all season, that I wish HEA would have taken a more family approach to this.
Uh-huh.
Because it really appears, and we've seen some scenes like with David and Kobe, like in the basement sharing a beer.
Uh-huh.
But I think there could have been more of this. Maybe it would have been more boring to everybody else. And I think seeing the big ceremony that they had for a wedding was impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have liked to have seen more of this bonding between Kobe and them. Because I think it's a positive.
Right.
It's not, I don't know, it's not clickbaity and it's not dramatic. But how about something positive?
Right. And it maybe would help everybody to understand how it is that they've allowed them to live there for so long.
Right.
Because it was about the relationship they had.
Social media has been pretty rough on them for not leaving.
Right.
And I think when you look at them, I think as parents, if you have the ability to help and you can help, to help. Mm-hmm. Right? David and Lisa have done right by them and by their grandkids.
Yes.
And I think it's almost something that you have, how you have handled things with our children, is just be consistent.
Right.
And you know what? Do the right thing.
Yeah.
I think if you're consistent with that, that's fine. Some days, maybe you're not as appreciated as you think you should be. Mm-hmm. And that happens.
Yeah.
And I think every time you would talk to Emily, that would be the case.
Right.
Right. I think, to have that as the opening scene and to have this other thing about the ex-girlfriend and the friend pop in on this tell-all, it reminds me of why the tell-alls really don't work.
Uh-huh.
Because we're injecting this drama where drama really doesn't need to be.
And this is so old and, irrelevant at this point in their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because is this going to change where they're at in their relationship now? No.
And they tried. They tried to do a good job of putting drama in at the commercial breaks for these two.
Uh-huh, they did.
And it didn't really work.
No.
We're just not fooled by that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not happening. So, there's that. What about this naming thing? This seems to be a bit of an issue, doesn't it?
A problem.
Yeah, this is
her
real drama.
Her attitude about, I have the right to choose the name because I cranked out this kid is ridiculous.
I get it if you don't care. For me, I think I was more involved in naming the first and not as involved in naming the other two.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did the first one together.
Right.
And in all actuality, we settled on the same name at the same time separately, which was interesting.
Right.
Because we actually sat in a cafe.
Wasn't it a Barnes and Noble?
Yep. And
That tells
each
you how long
had a
ago.
book of names, and we flipped through it, and we both closed it and looked at each other and said the same name.
That's neat.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, that kind of makes it happen. We knew at that point what it was.
Yeah.
So the other two, what we do have for us, it's initials that are the same.
Yes, they all
so
have the same
others match that. To me, it didn't care so much about that.
Yeah. We wanted, we had said we wanted an English name, and
I'm not sure it was a we thing, but I was on board.
We agreed
yeah,
with
I
that.
don't care.
An English name that started with H. We wanted to have the same initials, and we thought it would be cool to choose middle names that were variations of the oldest name in honor of him being the first. So they have variations of the same middle name. So it's kind of cool.
Right.
And they always thought it was neat.
Right. I didn't care probably as much. And there wasn't like a line to be drawn, like we're going to name it after whoever. And so we didn't have that coming into it.
Only once did I ever have in mind a name that was after my mother. And it was going to be a middle name, and that was the first miscarriage. And so I got away from that after that.
Yeah.
I couldn't reuse that. So then we went with the other pattern. So that was that.
But this is a firm. She said, what did she say? I get final say on the name.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And then, did she look at him and say, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Like, this is something.
Yeah, she's got attitude.
I mean, this tells you, when he's so soft and gentle and caring and loving to your parents, and you hit him with, really, an Angela, what are you going to do about it?
Right. She's very bullyish, too. And did you see her parents' faces during all that? What did you make of their expressions?
I think they're more proud of Kobe than they are of Emily.
Yes.
So that's what I have to think. Like, wow.
And that's what I'm saying. If there was a divide, I have to really think that they'd probably be on his side.
Well, I mean, they asked the question. Forgive me. Excuse me. They asked the question in the tell-all of, do you ever side against Emily? And he was quite bold with his statement of, I think she speaks disrespectfully to them.
And she didn't deny it.
Yeah.
I noticed that, too.
Yeah. It was just bad. Angela was treating his friend like when he was one of the goofballs.
Yeah.
Well, because it does sound, say what you want, it sounds funny to describe somebody by the color of their skin.
Yes,
right?
It does.
It makes everyone uncomfortable.
Right.
What we don't understand are other cultures. And so I think sometimes you can look past that, but it's just what it is. And so I think when you don't understand that there are other cultures that deal with things differently, and you can go, you know what, maybe I don't understand the context here. And just get past it, and you don't get hung up by it like Angela did.
Right.
She just came out really swinging.
Of course.
But, Angela had a moment.
She did have that.
Wow.
It went on continuously. Could you believe her facial expression when Michael finally got to speak because he was asked a direct question?
I don't remember him speaking.
He spoke once.
Yeah.
And he was pretty firm, which I was impressed by, because usually he's cowering in a corner, barely mumbling.
He's a pretty humble, quiet person.
Yeah, he is. He's very chill.
Yeah, she was just stewing and boiling and waiting. I felt, and maybe it didn't work out, and maybe that's how the edit went, but for us, from what we saw, Skyla gets more time than Michael.
Yeah.
And I think that's just wrong.
Yeah.
I think everybody sees it, and
everybody in the house said she will not let him finish a sentence.
And I knew when she walked out that she's coming back.
Yeah.
Because as soon as she makes it a block down the street,
She's like, well, I can't let him talk, and I'm not there.
No, that can't happen.
He can't be unsupervised.
No, it's completely not possible.
And everybody said that their impression of what she was doing, her purpose, was to keep him from talking to anyone.
Yeah, she was just going around.
He's not allowed to have conversation.
Purposefully putting everybody against him and accusing him of doing that for her.
Yeah,
well,
that's
actually,
not what he was doing.
She's accusing him of being nice, is really what she's doing. At no point is Michael talking crap about Angela.
No.
When in fact he probably has,
so many stories.
He has legitimate reasons to talk crap about Angela.
Right.
And doesn't.
Right. He never does. He
never
has.
He doesn't.
He's always made excuses for it.
My gosh, does Loren in her therapy-worthy advice to Michael literally sends him in to get slaughtered.
Yeah.
Why don't you go in there and slap the bear in the face, is what she'd really said.
Yeah. So she's all proud of herself. Oh, I should be a therapist for real. And then she's crying.
Well,
oh my gosh, what did I do?
Let's just be real. What she thinks is drama isn't.
Uh-huh.
I think other people, when you look around the room, Ashley and Manuel and Rob and Sophie and Loren and Alex, you know what? This drama is zero compared to this. Compared to the Ed and Liz and Angela and Michael stuff.
Yeah.
You got nothing. Mm-hmm. You think things are tough?
Yeah.
Try being Michael living in that house.
Yeah. Crazy.
The point is, and even she says, Skyla says, well, Michael's avoiding Angela.
Well, what a surprise. I would be too.
Is there a time like in this house where you go, Steve is lit right now, I'm going to stay away from him?
No, but sometimes, if you're feeling moody or something, I might steer clear. It's usually when you're busy doing something and you can't do two things at once, and so you can't have a conversation while you're doing something else or whatever. So if I catch you being testy, I'll just avoid you.
Right. But it's nothing like this.
No.
And it could be there's frequent times because for me, work and life is a fluid thing. And so if I'm in the middle of something work-wise, and it could be at 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter really when it is for me. That happens. And I think you can probably tell when something's going down. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I'm ever like Angela.
No.
I don't even know how to address
She's just
this.
Volatile. She's just, the only word I said I could use to describe her is vile. It's just venomous. Just really bullying behavior.
But it's past that. It's more.
Yeah, it's very aggressive. It's like domestic violence without actually putting your hands on somebody.
So you saw this thing at the top of the stairs.
Yeah. So
we talked about this with Mark in Inmate to Roommate.
She said for him to back up, and he was against the railing.
So let's look at that as just its own element. So she rushes him, comes up the stairs,
traps him at the railing,
crowds his space, and then tells him to back up.
Yeah. There's nowhere for him to go but over the rail.
I mean, we know somebody's not going over the rail because they wouldn't show this.
Well, this is why there's security in the
There
ring.
is. So if you look, and if you go to...
I saw two different people.
I don't know. I think there was somebody who was there as staff to help.
Okay.
The other person, so I think if you go about a minute and a half before the scene at the top of the stairs and you rewind it about a minute and a half, you'll see a security person in uniform.
In a uniform, yeah.
At the front door. The front door is cracked open, so my thought is he's outside.
And he comes in when he hears loud voices.
Which is Angela speaking at any time.
Right.
So there's security there, and I don't know that when they're supposed to engage. This would seem like a time to engage when there appears to be an argument at a railing.
Yeah.
my thought is Michael should have just pulled like a bullfighter and just, let her rush at him and then step aside. She could have flipped over the rail.
Why is she always up in his face? And,
Well, it's
and the
aggressive.
way she's yelling,
this is her.
she has to be spitting on him.
So this is the behavior that we saw with Angela and Liz.
Right.
This is the exact same behavior.
Yes.
This is her as a person.
Yeah.
You are a
You're
bad
right.
person.
Yeah.
And this
You're
is
right
how
about
you
that.
deal with things. And I think at some point, you can do this to people until you come across somebody.
Who's going to punch you in the face.
Right.
I'm surprised that, she has been in physical altercations.
Sure.
The incident with her doctor in public in New York.
Yeah, but she's not trying to ruin everyone's party. You see how everyone, when they came in to the tell-all at the day after, you saw the uneasiness in everybody.
Uh-huh.
Just complete uncomfortable. Everyone's pretty happy when she's not around.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's just bad.
And everybody was laughing and having a good time playing pool and having a drink
That
and
ended.
talking until she came in and started hollering.
Poor Manuel.
Yeah.
Dude's just trying to play pool and get his drink on.
Right.
This is all he's trying to do.
He's chilling in this great
Yeah,
house.
this is the best weekend ever.
Yeah.
And this happens at all. This is what Kobe said, I've never seen anything like this before.
Right.
And we have not
I don't know how to deal with this, he said.
No one has.
Yeah.
This is nothing that we have seen before. Nothing.
She has gotten worse every year.
Michael said in his, I think it was in this Entertainment Tonight issue, or People Mag, I don't remember who it was, whatever we talked about on Scoop 2 weeks ago, that Angela hasn't gotten worse from the show. That she, and it's not a shock. I mean, we saw her pull the stuff off of his car. We saw her physically assault an automobile.
Right.
I mean, she rushes him.
Yeah.
And tells him to leave.
Yeah.
Go away. Get out of my house.
Uh-huh. And it's not her house.
Yeah, and she's like, don't get in my face. Like, and what she wants is come, go. Don't be around me. If you're around me, don't
Right. She
speak.
said he's not giving me any attention or spending any time with me. And then he comes over and she says, I'm having a conversation. Can you go away?
For me, the funniest scene was when Rob, and there is no, normally I like to go couple by couple here, but there's no way in this format to go couple by couple. I'll try and do what I can, but I can't. Rob is in there, and it seems like he's talking up Michael. You've got to stand up to Angela. You can't take this. Angela comes into the room.
And he hightailed it.
Rob back.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Gotta go. I want no part of this. I am out. Rob's got nothing for Angela.
No.
I mean, what's he gonna do? I mean, really? At all. And Ed.
Well, he did say that if it was that volatile between him and Sophie, that he would not be able to deal with that at all. That's what he said.
Oh, who even knows? I mean, geez. It's just a mess. I have to say, poor Michael.
Yes, poor Michael.
And I know, and I think we did it last week, and I'll do it again this week. Michael leaves after this.
Yeah.
And I think inside scoop for us was that possibly Michael was scamming her, and at this point,
Yeah, I
don't know
only
that it
briefly
matters.
thought that was a possibility.
It still could be.
Once this tell-all started, I have backtracked on any thoughts I had about that.
Well,
Because,
one thing can be two things.
Well, sure.
There's a podcast I used to listen to. It's called the Total Soccer Show. And the thing that they did, something can be two things. One thing can be two things. Michael could have been at some point scamming her. It's possible.
Sure.
But at no point should any human
Be treated this way.
Yeah. It can't happen.
He's so calm and chill. Even when he's upset, he still
But this changed.
speaks respectfully.
This changed your opinion?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who could stay? Who could stay in that environment? Who would want to? And
Yeah.
she's so threatening to him physically, in such an aggressive way. Like, you would have to expect that her anger is visibly continuing to build. So you would have to expect that it's going to become physical at some point in the near future. So he surely understands he has to go for his own well-being.
And possibly safety.
Not just his physical safety, but her accusing him of something that she started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think he'd ever put his hands on her. At least not first. Not unless it was in defense of himself. And I absolutely see her engaging first.
You saw it.
Yes. And so...
What if...
I think he had to go.
What if Michael said
I
what
heard
Emily
that
said?
there was a shoving situation.
How could there not be?
Physical shoving that occurred that led to him leaving, was what I heard.
If Angela rushes to the top of the stairs and tells Michael to leave, and Michael says, I'm not going to leave, what are you going to do about it?
Oh, gosh, she would flip.
Right, this is over.
She
right?
would go insane.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
She'd probably push him over the railing.
And then stand there with his arm folded. I had a guy, and I've talked about him before, a friend of mine up on the mountain, Aaron Brunsman. I was born January 7th. He was born January 6th. We're a day apart, less than a day apart. Indiana, Michigan. We were on the mountain together. Really amazing. I saw this guy, and we would go see like Pantera. We would go see Danzig, Misfits, right? Whatever you want. I forget what they were at that point. And he would go in the middle of a mosh pit, Kelly. And now what I'm going to do is he would stand there with his arms folded. And while people are shoving each other,
pummeled,
he would stand in the middle. Guy's core strength was incredible. He would just stand in the middle with his arms folded. And if you did that and said, Angela, what are you going to do about it? And just stand there with his arms folded. She would explode.
Yeah, and she'd pop a vein.
And
she'd like rupture an artery.
Right.
In her
I
neck.
think one of her teeth are going to pop out or something. Whatever her implants, whatever she's got done, it's just going to be bad. There's so much Angela stuff here. I don't even know. I think that everybody in the whole house is like, we want to hear from Michael. We're happy that Angela's not here.
Right.
We want to hear from him.
Exactly.
And so I'm disappointed that Skyla gets this time and we don't. And maybe there wasn't Michael time. It would be like, we're going to sit here and we're going to put this. You know what I would do? I would get with Ashley and say, Ashley, I know in your a bag that you brought is a ball and leather strap. Can we put this ball and leather strap in Angela's mouth while we ask Michael some direct questions so Angela can't speak? Can we do this?
Yeah.
Is this something that's possible?
Can we gag her?
I know she's got it with her. Can we do this? Right? I would like to have this happen. So, because I want to hear from him. I think when this is over, that interview, I think there'll be, you know what? I don't think Michael's ever going to say anything bad about Angela.
No, I don't think he will.
I don't think that's a thing.
He'll just go on with his life.
Yeah, because he's going to say, Angie, Angie, is what he's going to say.
Yeah.
Angie.
Right.
It's just who she is, right? She's who she is, right? What about, there's some things Angela couldn't deny. Is that Michael was good with the kids. And so that is something. I thought...
and she got all teared up about that.
Yeah.
That was weird.
So Michael's, generally speaking, a good person.
A good person, yeah.
So, because she had an opportunity, and this is the one thing she couldn't say about him. So maybe Angela's just a good, honest person and speaking the truth. Is that possible?
No.
It's not. She loses her crown.
That's
Can you
funny.
believe that she had a
couldn't
crown?
believe she came in with a crown on.
I am not a queen.
Whose princess is she?
Amen to that, sister. What about this Alexi-Angela conversation outside? Did you find it?
That was weird.
Yeah, I think maybe Alexi's out there to try and just in general, calm her down.
That could be.
Somebody needed to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably, I don't know, none of the ladies were going to do it.
No.
Angela's not somebody who could have another lady talk to her like that.
No.
She wouldn't respect another woman.
No.
And maybe a young, handsome Alexi. I bet you she likes hanging out with him.
And he had a lighter, so.
This is also something I would like to address, and I noticed it right away.
Mm-hmm. I did too.
He pulls out a lighter.
Mm-hmm.
This means
he's probably a smoker.
Right. And this is not something we've seen.
Which would be common.
Stereotypical Eastern
European. Right.
My experience in Europe is a long time ago, but everybody smoked. Mm-hmm. This is all
everybody in my family.
This is a long time ago, but everybody seemed to smoke.
Yeah, everybody smokes.
I know things have changed in the 25, almost 30 years since I've been there. Mm-hmm. But I did notice that everybody smoked. Mm-hmm. So this would be a surprise, and maybe a little bit of like what Ed's talking about Loren and Alex. You know, I think they probably control their image probably a bit more.
Right.
Purposefully not showing Alexis.
Looking clean and squeaky.
Yes, not smoking. But I did notice that he had a lighter.
Yeah.
There's a chance.
He seemed very comfortable using it also.
Well, that's even better.
It wasn't the kind of lighter that we would have, which would be like a candle lighter, like a long grill lighter.
I didn't look to see what it was, if it was like a Bic or a Zippo, right?
It was like a thing. It wasn't like a open, like a disposable. It was like a Zippo. Metal with a lid.
The Zippo,
like my parents would have had.
Right. My dad had it had a wick, and you filled it with fluid. A Zippo lighter. It's the metal box.
Yeah,
lighter.
It was a metal box. It had a case.
I wouldn't imagine Angela with that. Angela would get her lighters from the gas station. So I would love to see that scene again and see what, I'd love to watch stuff and see stuff on counters and little tidbits like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's something to see, is where did that lighter come from? Was it his? Mm-hmm. Right? Now, a gentleman, if she was panicked, would have grabbed the lighter.
I was
and
watching
lit it.
To see if he handed it back to her,
He did not. No, he looked like he put it in his pocket. Mm-hmm. And there's very few reasons for him to be carrying a lighter.
Right.
So that says something.
Especially when you have children. It's just not something you have out.
Well, I can't think Lauren would like that. She would stop him from smoking. So this is the thing. If you haven't seen it yet, and I know it's a little difficult to watch the episode, it looks at this point, unless it pops up free tomorrow, it appears that you could watch episode 1 for free at this point, but you needed to log into a provider for episode 2. Maybe it changes in the morning, but everybody who was really upset about the way they handled episode 1 are going to be even worse about episode 2.
Wow.
If that's the case.
Yeah, because this is the good stuff.
To let you know, what you could do is sign up for a free month of Philo.
Yes. Actually, I read that most of the trials right now for the services that have it are 1 week trials, not month.
Oh, is it? Mm-hmm. They wouldn't plan that, but I think I saw somebody had done like a 1 month trial and then done it that way.
Maybe Philo is the exception.
Yeah, it's possible. So I think this is what I've seen as the best way to get around this TLC thing, which really has everybody up in arms. Mm-hmm. So I thought at least I would pass that on. I don't know if it's going to work for those of you. What we do is we actually subscribe to Philo. Mm-hmm. So that's how...
Yeah, because we used to have Hulu Live, and the price jacked up so high. It was ridiculous. So we got rid of it, just did regular Hulu, and... for live TV, we did Philo, and it's so cheap. It's like $27 a month.
Yeah. Well, it's still not cheap, but
Well, compared to anything else with live television.
yeah, I know that blows.
And it has a lot of good channels in it because
right.
I was paying a la carte for seasons of shows that Hulu didn't have the channels.
And they're
like
still
Hallmark stuff.
They're
and
still
things like that.
backdooring us with stuff like A&E shows that they're not letting us see on demand. You know, like stuff that we watch, like Hoarders and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the network's agreements. You know, their own requirements.
So
like,
the agreement here is they're
you
not
going to watch it live.
They're
you
not
can't
going to show the other
TiVo some
episodes
things.
until this season is ended.
Right.
And so they're not on Discovery Plus, not on Max, and so people are pretty torqued about that. So, but there's still other shows. So, and so we have to sit through commercials. So 2 hours. This is actually 2 hours instead of like an hour and 40, which is I don't get.
This was long, having to sit through the commercials.
Yeah, I'm guessing it seemed longer. Because normal episode is like an hour and 40 some minutes. But there's more than 18 minutes of commercials. So, I don't know. Math numbers.
Commercial breaks were like 4.5 minutes long.
Numbers are really hard for me. So, there's no surprise that Michael avoids Angela.
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Well, I mean, everybody was. You saw Rob
and
take
the poor
off.
fella. I'm not trying to insult cat people. But, look, what we know about cats. And all the stuff in her house. Can you imagine? Probably.
The cat pee on everything.
Maybe they're trained, and maybe these cats. I can't even imagine the litter boxes being changed frequently.
Because they're covered with clothing.
Yeah, so.
Like everything else.
What's clean, what's dirty? Who knows?
Maybe that's why there was so much laundry.
Yeah.
It's all covered in cat pee.
I think there's so much with Angela. I'm like scribbling. Like a crazy person is what I'm doing. Did she say, I'm shouting because I pay taxes? This came out of her mouth. I couldn't write fast enough.
Yeah, she said she pays taxes and you don't, MF.
I'm coughing. I think I have COVID, and every time I laugh, I cough, and it's just bad. So please don't make me laugh. Oh, my word. I'm shouting because I pay taxes. Amazing. Michael likes chicken nuggets. It's probably better.
That's so cute. I'm so glad that he finally got his chicken. That's what he wanted that first night they went out, and she wouldn't let him get chicken strips.
She made him eat grits and something.
Yeah, grits and shrimp or something.
Yeah. Why ruin shrimp?
Yeah.
With grits.
With something bland and grainy.
That's horrible. It's bad. I don't even know where to go with her. I mean, it's just not enough. It's truly amazing. There's no reason they should be together. I mean, really, what's the future for them? He finally snaps and says, you know what? Then send me back.
Right, send me home.
She says she's never going to give up. This could be a nice little, I mean, if we get into, like, our court TV world, this could be a nice little battle for a few years between Angela and Michael. What Angela needs is another man to distract her. Like Ed.
Yeah, they're perfect for each other. I mean, they were having their little side conversation, sympathizing with each other. Two horrible people together, saying how great they are and how horrible other people are. All I could think to myself was these two deserve each other. They truly do. I want these two to be a couple. So they can blow each other up.
But I want like a Big Brother type thing. Do you even know what Look, you live in your bubble. Yes, so Big Brother's
like a fly on the wall.
A CBS show. And I think you vote people. So I think they would vote Angela out. I would say after night one, they pull everybody around and say, who do we vote out of the house? And Angela would get voted out.
For sure.
We're voting this person. I would definitely make it a secret ballot.
Yes, definitely.
Could you imagine that it wouldn't be unanimous?
I would. Absolutely.
But would Jasmine vote Gino out? There's one vote for Gino. And it's got red lipstick on it. Jasmine has voted him out.
That's funny.
I'll get to them, but I think we're kind of moving in the Ed world. This Jason was a little aggressive.
Yeah, I wish he'd been more chill.
I thought about that, and you mentioned something to me because I said that.
Mm-hmm.
I said I don't like Jace's aggressiveness towards Ed.
But Ed never stood up for Liz.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's what she needs.
Yeah.
Because I hearken back to the last season of The Last Resort.
Mm-hmm.
When Angela was all in Liz's face, in and out of the hot tub.
Mm.
And she bullied her just like she just did with Michael.
Oh, yeah.
Getting in her face and backing her up and being all aggressive, spitting in her face, yelling at her. And
It's like the scene from Aliens.
yeah. And you're just expecting her to open her mouth and swallow her head
Right.
like any second.
This is Aliens.
Yeah. And so, Ed watched that go down
And did nothing.
and then went back to the porch
Mm-hmm.
and chastised her
Yeah.
for getting into it with Angela, which was ridiculous.
Right.
And he didn't defend her at all,
No.
and she did nothing wrong.
No.
Angela's behavior was totally out of line. She was drunk and aggressive and belligerent and horrible. And she treated her terribly. And so maybe Liz needs to have somebody stand up for her in this situation
And it could be a purposeful thing from Jason.
that he's doing because
To do that.
she needs to feel somebody's on her side.
Yeah, I'm going to take you upstairs and, I don't know,
Yeah.
pound you. This kind of stuff we probably don't need.
Yeah.
I think they're probably rubbing it in his face.
They are.
And maybe Ed deserves it.
He's got it coming.
I guess there's no maybe, right?
He's got it coming.
Because there's nothing you could do that I'd go, I do think there's one thing that Liz said about looking up to a man.
That was so fun.
I get it. But I didn't like the stature thing.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think you're making fun of Ed's.
Disability.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable. I feel I don't think I have great empathy for people, but I think I can feel when people should be uncomfortable, and I felt that this was not cool, and I didn't think that was good. And I get it. There's so much.
But at the same time,
I know.
He's been so horrible to her and continues to be horrible to her.
It's hard to pick on one point.
Yeah,
Because there's so much pain there.
Yeah.
To think that you couldn't, when you have the upper hand.
To jab.
I would love to be able to say, you should be above this.
Bigger than that.
And not joke. You could hit him on the stature, on the character thing, but not on the stature thing, and not necessarily make fun of his height. So I wish you wouldn't have done it, but I do get it. I don't know that I
was a little uncomfortable with the question that, what was it? Who asked it? Was it Ashley?
It's probably Jasmine. She was real inappropriate with all of that.
Yeah, it probably was. How is this anatomically possible?
It was Jasmine.
To have sex with.
Well, it's just not our thing,
that
right?
was weird.
Yeah, it's not something we don't all wonder in our own way.
Yeah,
right?
I guess.
But again, it's just a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it
and
was.
It's just how
Conversation I could do
I
without.
get it.
Yeah.
It's just not who we are as people.
And that seemed like picking on him too.
Yeah, right. So I just didn't like that part of it. Other than that, Ed has everything coming.
Yeah, he does.
Because he's dished
an
all
a-hole.
this out.
Yeah.
And I can probably look at this thing as if it's not Ed. And what if it's somebody else who has this, who's watching this?
I also felt
would
that
feel bad.
Liz's side of the pasta story was totally justified by his sister. Because she tried to make a bigger deal out of it than it obviously was by saying, well, she behaved exactly how she's behaving right now. She didn't even raise her voice.
Ed interrupts the Angela Michael discussion, which I think is a good discussion about, hey, it's time for me to prove that I'm right.
Yeah.
This is, and I can't even tell you the real
textbook.
Yeah, well, no, this is Real Housewives.
Yeah.
So this is when a Real Housewife, and for those of you who don't watch Real Housewives, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to.
This is when they pull out the binder.
Yes, from behind them. This is
the reunion.
the binder or an envelope full of. They take text
messages and they have them printed and blown up.
As we would say in the 90-day world, Texas. and we blow them up to 8.5 by 11 so that Andy can't even read them. And so he looks at him and goes, I can't even read this.
Yeah.
And so you've pulled out all of this stuff. You've probably spent 6 to 8 hours, or maybe had your assistant do it, put all this stuff out and print it and put it in this form so Andy can see it. He looks at it for 30 seconds and goes, this is nothing. I can't deal with this. Put this away. And this is what Ed's call is.
Yeah.
And even Liz says she's a good Christian person. She's not going to lie.
Right.
And so even when you hear that, I don't even think it's an end around by Liz to head this off. I think Liz literally believes this is a good person.
Yes. She's not going to make stuff up.
Right. And Liz does, and she doesn't.
Right. And she says she was just like she is right now, like it was horrible, and she wasn't even yelling. So
Right.
we're like, oh, okay, well then Liz is right.
Yes.
And Ed is bad.
Oh, this whole thing is just bad. All of it. You know?
Yep.
Ed says that
These are the most dysfunctional people, not just couples, just people on their own of themselves.
It's different level.
They
Angela
just,
and Ed.
Yeah,
It's different level.
All of the people this season just are a kind of their own.
There's nothing to say about Rob and Sophie at this point, other than what I have to say is there's this little scene about Sophie, and I wonder what people think about. I have to tell you, Sophie, that at this point nobody cares about your scenes. Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
There's nothing to it.
Do we have to see Rob and Sophie?
Do we even have to talk about them?
Yeah, this is bad because we have what is real drama. So that being aside, I can put them to bed and still get.
That's why nobody's even
get
giving
back to,
them a sentence.
Right. This is nothing.
Up to this point.
You think this is drama? Look at this.
Yeah, right.
Right. You know,
Have
I think
lived a day like this.
I think for us is, we talk about even our personal things we have going on, and we go, we know people have real problems, right? And we're just, we got some things going on, but they're not big right now, right? And people deal with big things, and in the next decade, as we get older, there'll be some serious things that we're going to have to deal with. But at this point, it can be, I don't know, a dude walking into an Aldi freezer, right? Or Peach guy hollering at you or something, whatever it's going to be. And you can make fun about that. But it's not like this. And Ed is actively rooting against Liz.
Yeah, he is.
I say, I'll bet you $1,000 that in 6 months we're going to be sitting in a bar and talking about how bad Liz is.
Yeah, I could not believe he said that. What a D.
Right,
I mean, really,
and let's go back a week. Let's go back literally 7 days in the show and where he was first night in the house.
Yeah, he was crying. I really miss you.
Yep.
Why?
Yeah.
If she's that bad.
Well, because Ed needs somebody classy. This is
I
what
couldn't believe he said that.
Liz would have taken him for all his money. I think he probably does all right in his cameo.
Have a real job
well,
anymore.
the cameo thing, it's gonna die off at some point. And then what? The novelty of Ed is gonna wear off.
Yeah.
Quickly.
So what's his future career path?
Maybe
She was about to become a part owner in a restaurant. I mean, he talks about her like she's inept and nothing without him. And it's just ridiculous.
I mean, to be honest, Liz has some things she needs to work through.
Yes.
To choose a guy and to be around and stay around a guy like Ed.
Yes, it was horrible.
Is something that she's got to work through.
Yeah.
And maybe having somebody positive that.
And she was with somebody abusive before.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, she's got some personal
Maybe
issues to
Ed
work
is going to
through.
star in stepbrother and stepsister porn. Is what he's going to do.
Oh, gosh. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah.
And yet I can't.
She seems happy, right?
She does. She looks genuinely happy. I haven't seen her smile like that the whole time that she's been
and that's good,
with him.
right?
And it's nice to see.
Yeah.
And it's good for her daughter to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all this. I wish Jason wasn't so aggressive, but I think I get it now. It's probably good for Liz.
Right.
And they probably had a good evening.
Yeah,
I'm sure she probably felt empowered.
I'm sure she did.
At the way he stood up.
Yeah.
He even got up.
He did.
And stood over Ed.
Yeah.
At the phone was happening. You're not going to talk to her that way.
Right.
And so, I didn't like it, but I think you kind of let me in on this is what she needs right now. It's probably pretty good for her.
Yeah.
Boy, they were hammered. Loren was hammered night one.
Loren was so drunk.
You could see she was shook.
Yeah.
At the Michael Angela thing, and that it went badly.
Mm-hmm. But her is like crying in her beer kind of thing. Is what it was
say
like.
what you want. Her fat content is down. She's drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
First, probably not the first, but it's, probably
night away from the kids.
3 or 4, I don't know how long this goes, 3 or 4 nights away from the kids.
Yeah.
I would assume she's probably feeling pretty good.
She's a bit sloshed, probably hung over the tell-all the
next
day.
and probably in shock. Because this is not what she anticipated. She really thought she was helping.
Yeah.
And for it to go completely awry.
But she did kind of make it about herself then.
Oh, you're right. And so
totally did.
This is what Loren's going to do.
Right.
This fight happens, and Angela has to come and console Loren.
Yeah.
In the middle of berating Michael and chasing him out of the house. And telling him to get out of her house.
Yeah, that was funny.
Get out of my house.
Gosh. This is like, this tell-all house setup is like Romper Room. It's like watching Girls Gone Wild or something. It's like, what's going to happen next?
Well, it's not
it's
as
so
good.
Entertaining.
It's not as good as like Real Housewives,
trip. Girls Trip or something.
Yeah. I mean, so it's not that.
Yeah, it's not that level.
Because.
But sometimes that ends in lawsuits. So.
Right. I mean, this is the ultimate Girls Trip stuff.
Right.
I think this is a good format.
Yeah.
And I think they have to stay with it.
I think they do too. I think going back to a regular studio interview is blah.
You can't do it with the other way.
Right.
And it's hard to do it with a regular 90-day. But really, what happens in 90-day, I think, and I'd have to check the numbers, but at this point, every 90-day couple gets married.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so that happens. So just
Even
B90.
if it's the last day.
It would make a B90 tell-all pretty boring because, you got one person there, one person on video.
Right.
Maybe one person's come back to America, but that makes it pretty tough. So Ashley and Manuel, nothing really going on with them. They're in the middle of everybody's stuff.
They're not talking about their own stuff right
They're the
now.
perfect one. I don't think there's really much to work out because I think they've already worked it out. These two are probably in their own rhythm.
I love
at this
Manuel.
Point. Right.
I really do. I like the way he interacts with everybody. He's like, hey,
Right.
And him and
well, that Gino scene about the porn.
Yeah, and him and Liz's guy. Speaking Spanish together, talking crap about everybody. It was great.
They were really talking crap about Angela.
Yeah,
that's what they were doing.
I love it.
So that was good. So that makes him bilingual. So that's pretty cool. I thought Ashley talking lifting. She got Patrick, knew he was like a lift, a guy who lifted.
Yes.
And was
that
talking.
Was neat too,
I think it's the kind of stuff like that
right. You don't see coming.
Right, and I think
and it would never come up in a studio format.
Yeah, and the tell-all for us, I think it was still more of a window into who they are, but this is even more of that.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm not too upset about 5 episodes of this because it's different.
Yeah.
And I could deal with this. If this would have gone on another hour, I would not have been upset.
I would have been fine with that, yeah.
And it's one of the few times in the last couple of years that a 90-day show has been on and you go, I could get more of that.
Yeah.
And as painful as it was, this may have been worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's something different, something we hadn't seen before. I think the shocker of the night is Patrick talking crap about American women.
What the heck?
Oh, this is what happens.
Made him look so bad?
Well, this is part of what you get is the real people.
Yeah.
So this is what Patrick believes.
Ooh, this
Patrick's
is a bad side of him.
Jaded by American women, and so
being after his money and buying a house.
Yeah, this says something more to me about control and power and than anything.
Yeah.
And it's not a good look.
It's not.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah,
I felt bad.
My jaw dropped.
I'd like to know if...
I wanted to unhear it because I was feeling so warm and fuzzy about him.
Yeah.
After the trip that they took.
I wonder
what... family relationship stuff and him breaking down about his dad with her and being vulnerable. Like, I was feeling real warm and fuzzy about Patrick. And I wanted to unhear his comments because this was not a good side of him.
It didn't feel right.
No.
I wonder if this makes it through, or if social media picks this up and says, hey, this was wrong in the middle of this Ed and Angela stuff.
Yeah.
There's this little nugget that came out that is probably actually the biggest story of the night.
Yeah.
Because I think it may be.
That was shocking.
It seems not good. Because for me, it seems like I chose a foreign woman because I can control her.
Because they're subservient.
Yeah. And I don't know that Thais is that.
No,
But I don't know. It's those things like I felt uncomfortable about.
It was elitist is what it was. He was a little elitist.
Yeah.
Like, I've got all this, and it's not appreciated by American women. They expect it, and I want a foreigner so they will appreciate my high status.
I would assume
like he was being arrogant.
Patrick is probably middle class.
Uh-huh.
Is probably where he is. I think he's a management in the security company. Probably middle class. And so his thought here is that a foreigner would be happy with living middle class America versus an American woman who would not be satisfied with middle class.
I got the impression he felt he was upper class and that it's
possible. We don't
unappreciated because he talked about buying houses and stuff that American women that
it was
you
bad.
meet in a bar or whatever aren't going to appreciate.
We talked about this.
That.
I can't even. We do. And just so you know, I think we had 7 shows this week. I believe is where we were. It's really hard to remember which show we talked about. Oh, it was probably Plathville. Boy, this is so hard. There's so many shows. It was probably Plathville and talking about, and somebody helped me on our Patreon with Lydia Grace is Olivia's sister.
Yes.
So this is where it was. You remember I was struggling with that.
Uh-huh.
There's so many flipping names. If I totaled all the names and all the shows that we have, it's probably 70 to 80 that we're dealing with right now. And so it was about, where you meet people and maybe meeting them at the bar while you could maybe get lucky and find a Kobe, but you're probably not. You're probably going to find Jonathan.
Right.
This is who you're going to end up finding at the bar. And I don't mean to pick on Jonathan, right? It's just he's on my brain. And I'm sure if I went through the list, they would be worse people. And you think about, and just think about what Patrick said.
I want to say, though, in his defense, she was no better.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I mean, she was pretty much a user also.
I would like to take Patrick and say, I'd like you to take a good look at Larissa. I'd like for you to take a good look at Anfisa.
Yes.
And I would look, they're their own things. There are plenty of non-Larissas and Anfisas around. But let's not stereotype. We could probably get away from all of that. There's good and bad. There's good and bad everywhere. And so I think Patrick...
Yeah, there's nobody like Anfisa. I mean, she's the poster child for user, abuser, coming in hot.
Just think of this couple, right? I'd love to watch this couple again with what we know now.
Yeah.
Because George went to jail, and Anfisa is Anfisa.
Right.
So
she's still Anfisa. He's happily married with children.
Yeah.
So
But we don't know too much about her personally. I think I remember seeing her dating somebody at a football game. We haven't seen a lot. She was on one of these reality shows with a bunch of people.
Yeah, but she got into like OnlyFans.
Yeah, but everybody's doing that.
You know,
Everybody's got that.
But I mean, nasty.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
She's not like cameoing. You know, she's
I don't even know if that's the
hardcore
case. I don't even remember.
Yeah, she got into like
It's possible.
modeling and
It's
that
possible.
kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know. Is there anybody we haven't really talked about? Oh, Gino and Jasmine. There's not a lot to this. Right. Looks like Gino's watching stuff of his ex-girlfriend.
That's gross.
Was it ex-girlfriend or ex-wife?
Ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And
This is a problem.
yeah, I said to you that, you know, I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if his relatives just completely stayed on her side if they divorce. Because obviously they've been around them. They live close by and they spend a lot of time together. And she's become friends with like the in-law, sister-in-law.
Yep.
And so that's like her best friend now. So, I mean, they obviously
What is
are
that,
privy.
cousin-in-law? That's not really a thing, but we get who she is.
Yeah. So they obviously are privy to the ins and outs of
them
and what
they know more
their
than we do.
daily life is, right? And so,
They
because
choose
I
her.
imagine she's confiding in her a lot because
We don't have
she
to.
doesn't
They
have
see it.
anybody else.
And they know
And
Gino.
they're around. They get together and they have conversations and they go to dinner and they have barbecues and stuff. So yes, they know the real deal of their relationship, and they are clearly 500% on her side.
Yeah, Jasmine seems fun in the house.
She does. She does.
She seems giddy like one of the girls. And I know the
Yes.
alcohol's flowing, but she seems like she's getting along
Easy to
pretty
get
well.
along with, yeah.
She does.
She's settled in nicely, I think.
And
And she seemed sincere when she approached him behind the curtain when they were getting ready at the studio. And I was touched. I kind of went, "Oh, that was really sweet."
Oh, about the starting over.
Yes. That seemed really sincere.
Mm.
And I didn't like his response. Because he just...
Well, he's tagged out.
He just accepted everything she said. Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. But didn't offer anything from his side. You know, she was trying to compromise. He was not offering any compromise on his side. It's just like, yeah, you can come meet me where I am, was his attitude.
Yeah.
Not, I'll meet you in the middle.
Because there could have been, the evening was pretty relaxed. Could have imagined when they retired to their rooms, it was probably a very relaxed time.
Uh-huh.
And if something's going to happen, it's probably a pretty good time. Everybody's feeling pretty good right there. I mean, he was down there, whatever. Gino was down there dancing or whatever. Yeah. The kiss looked really, really awkward. Like they'd never kissed before.
Yes. And that's what she's saying, is that he's not affectionate at all. He looked very uncomfortable. And when she more affectionately kissed him, he looked like he didn't know what was coming at him.
Yeah.
He is a very awkward person. He has a problem.
Well, that can happen. Counseling?
In a marriage?
I don't know. I don't get it.
It's weird.
There's some things like you kind of get where they are. Like you could look at an Ashley and Manuel and go, okay, I get where they are, and there's some things they got to work out. There's something like even an Angela and Michael, I get where they are. Angela's crazy,
yes,
right? Mm-hmm. And Michael in all of this, he's not hollering and yelling,
right?
And I don't even understand.
Yeah,
scamming or not,
so
there's nobody. Michael's character is calm.
Yes,
I don't get it.
Very much like Kobe.
Right.
They're very similar.
Yeah, I think Michael's more calm than Kobe.
He is.
I don't get it. I don't get, like, I can't comprehend Jasmine and Gino. Because you kind of put things into their box. And I don't have a box. I don't have a box this size that fits Gino and Jasmine.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen, so I don't get it. And like you think, like even as a couple who's been married, we're pushing, we're
almost 30.
3 months or how many months short? 3 months short, 4 months of 30 years.
Months.
So, we've seen a lot of stuff. We haven't seen this.
No.
And so we think there's a way through it. I don't necessarily see a way through the Gino and Jasmine thing.
Because I think he has in himself personally some serious problems.
It's professional help.
Yeah, there's no thing that she could do to fix his problems.
And I think what he needs is private assistance.
Yeah, because
not with her.
I believe the issue is that he, and I think his cousin hit it on the head, he doesn't acknowledge that he has a problem. And until he acknowledges that he has a serious problem, he's not going to do anything about it. It's not going to get better.
The problem is if he had one-on-one counseling, that this stuff wouldn't come out because he wouldn't mention it. You'd never know. It's not really a thing. It would be like marriage counseling, separate, and then together.
Yeah. Well, it's like his cousin pointed out. He said, you see, as everybody gives feedback to him, makes suggestions, he's immediately shaking his head no.
He agrees with anything.
Everyone's comments.
Anything anybody says about Jasmine,
yes,
he's nodding.
But he's no when it's himself.
They know what they're talking about when it comes to Jasmine.
Yeah.
But not when they come to him.
Right.
Amazingly enough, they're idiots when it comes to him.
In 100% denial that he has any issue that he needs to work through.
Yeah.
I feel bad for her. I really do. I think she's come a long way.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think these two play the social media part, and I think they've played the show and their characters on the show. I don't know that we know the real them.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's real and what isn't, but from what we see, I feel like she has come a long way in her level of self-control and maturity. It seems like she's settling into their relationship more. I think she feels less threatened than she did when they weren't married. You know, as far as the jealousy and stuff like that, I don't think she's as bothered by those things. You know, how she was so controlling and who you talking to when he's picking up food and stuff like that. I think that has passed for her. I think she's content in they're married now and he's hers.
I think at this point, with all that they've been through, he probably owes making sure her paperwork is in. And that she gets her paperwork. If they end up separating and going their own way, that the path for her to be with her kids, if that's really what she wants, I mean, that still hasn't come up, and maybe it does. I think that's an issue that hadn't been addressed, and I'm uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with her not being around her kids. And I don't know that I've been able to put all that together yet in a way that I feel comfortable with her as a person. I'm just not quite
because
there.
she flip-flops from,
I don't like
being
it.
upset about it to all about the pageant. And so
it's a little.
It's hard to reconcile.
I get a little Larissa vibe when it comes to that from her, and she has done nothing to show me that her kids are the most important thing. It may be, but I haven't seen it, and so.
And she may be trying to put it out of her mind. At least she's talked about it. I mean, Larissa really never talks about her kids.
And Larissa's kids still aren't here.
And she doesn't have custody of them either.
Yeah.
So she gave up custody of her kids to other.
I'm not trying to compare the two, but their boobs are probably very similar.
About the same size.
She was about to break out of her dress.
Did you see a picture of her recently when she got married again?
I feel uncomfortable.
They're so
I feel like
enormous. It's not even real.
And when there's a time period during the week where I sit with our research department and we go over like inside scoop stuff. And my fear is that you walk into the room and maybe I'm researching Larissa, right? And so you would walk in and there would be an image of Larissa
with her
on our screen.
Boobs.
Well, I mean, this is an intense. I mean, our meetings are pretty intense. And so there's a lot of stuff floating around. And my fear is you walk in and the whole staff is just looking at Larissa images. And then you're going to ask questions. And then we're going to go through search histories. And we've got a whole problem here. So, and then I'd have to get rid of the whole staff. And it's just bad. Right, our OnlyFans subscriptions that we get solely for the show
You're funny.
is going to happen. So for us, look, I'm going to try at this point to list what we're covering. We believe, as we talked about in our last, this may be the last week of 60 Days In. And I haven't checked. I don't have time to check TV guides. But this could be the last week of 60 Days In and Inmate to Roommate.
This coming.
Yeah, its climax seems to be
like
happening.
Everything's wrapping up
I think
fast.
everybody's about to get booted out of the jail at 60 Days In. In Inmate to Roommate, everybody's about to get kicked out of the house, which should be a typical ending to these shows. We cover those shows. Patreon's the best place to see that because they allow me to group. And you could
those
listen.
have been fun this season.
You can listen to all of the 60 Days In for this season and the only two we've covered. And Inmate to Roommate, season 1 and season 2, you can listen to those in a bunch. And so those are in a group. We cover those 2 shows by subscription at this point, and I think it'll stay like this. We're covering The Other Way by subscription, and it's an unimpressive The Other Way season.
Yeah.
So far, it's just because the Shekinahs were very excited for what is it, B90, because we have 8 new couples.
Yes,
Nobody's making a return visit.
I'm just holding out hope, is what it is.
Yes, we'll get
I'm
jaded.
sure I'll be disappointed.
We cover Welcome to Plathville as a subscription. We cover.
And it's very good this season.
We put out a little 10-minute thing of Inside Scoop, and then we put out spoilers after that, so you don't get spoiled. We have a personal podcast that is probably, I don't know, I would assume it's the least listened to of our shows, but it is the longest of our shows. This is where we talk about our crap that we got going on.
But actually, the people that have communicated with us the most,
right,
have done so based on
the personal
they
podcast.
best enjoy our personal podcast.
Right, I get it. So, but there's all this, and so what we don't do is we try not to put too much personal stuff in the other shows, and we kind of leave it all for that.
Yeah.
Probably a show I'm missing. I don't know that I counted 7, but there was a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So there is that. I think that's about it.
Well, I'm excited that this new tell-all format has become so interesting. I feel fired up about it and looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's rare that we look forward to.
The season was just so painful for me.
You know, it wasn't bad, and we talked about it, I think, in the Inside Scoop beginning, the free part, was that it was the Nicole and Mahmoud stuff that probably made it interesting. And then, after they stopped participating, then it just kind of...
But, you know, at the same time, I was so confused by their intro into the season because it seemed like Nicole had shifted. She was kind of ugly, and...
I think she brought him over to give him the business.
To give it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it
didn't seem like she intended
because he deserved it.
Yeah, he did.
So
but it didn't seem like she
intended
at all for them to work out.
It's like Liz banging Jason in front of Ed.
It was like revenge.
Right? They should have been making out. Here's what I want them to do. I want next week Liz and Jason to, and this is, forgive my crudeness, but it's almost like midnight here, to be banging in the hot tub in front of Ed. It's like, you talk about uncomfortable.
You remember last season, didn't he get in naked at the resort?
No, he got in and then pulled his trunks off.
But he was naked
and it seems like he stood up as somebody was leaving and said, like, where are you going? He stood up naked.
Yeah, what a gross guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, I get it. So if that's your bit, right? You know, I'm an awkward-looking person. This is my bit. It's probably...
Literally?
Yeah, my little bit.
My little bit?
Enough.
As we've heard.
Have a wonderful week.
Thank you for listening.
You can listen to the rest of this episode
by subscribing to our Coupled with Chaos channel on Apple,
by subscribing to our Patreon,
or by subscribing to our Supercast
for $3.99 a month,
where you can hear us talk about reality shows,
real life, and more on our podcasts,
covering shows airing on TLC, A&E, Bravo, and the WE Network.
Just follow the instructions in the show notes.
Tell your friends about this podcast.
And rate and review us on your favorite podcast player.
Follow us at Coupled with Chaos on all the socials.
Or contact us directly by email at coupledwithchaos@gmail.com.